30 years back in 91, 92, the bull market that I've seen and the exuberance that I've seen in markets, I've yet to see that. People talk about in last 4 years how the demat accounts have grown from 40 million to 190 million, how the mutual fund SIPs have grown. You haven't seen a bull market that I've seen in 92. People focus on what are they doing. Some focus on how are they doing it. Very few are why are they doing it. I think in investing you can also apply something like that.
So rank holder, chartered accountant, then moving to Bombay for your first job. How did the markets happen to you? Because I'm thinking 20, 30 years ago, this was not the India we know, and this was definitely not the market.
खुले रहिए विचारों से, बंधे रहिए संस्कारों से. But the one thing I'm sure every ultra HNI can, it's other way around now, can learn from retail investor is that what a patience and a discipline of a most simplest of the thing SIP can do to you. इतना narrative की जगह आप इतना से पूछ सकते थे बाजार क्या लगता है?
क्या लग रहा है बाजार बता दो हमें.
The three biggest mistakes or the challenges for not to be successful in investing are.
Hello and welcome to Capital Conversations. Today I'm in conversation with Navneet Munot, CEO and Managing Director of HDFC Asset Management. Navneet, good morning. Thank you for taking out the time to make the trek to our office. You know, we all talk about markets going up and down, whether we are bottoming out, recession, RI, what is Trump doing, gold. But I don't want to start with that this morning. Let's start by getting to know you a little bit, right? You are not somebody who's all over social media. You clearly don't have too many interactions on television. And yet you run the largest, if not the largest, one of the largest AMCs in the country. And your journey is also very phenomenal. You came from a small town in Rajasthan. You just mentioned to me you completed your CFA there. And then, of course, moved
CA
there and then moved to a big city like Mumbai. Talk to us about that journey and how that makes you the person you are today. Who doesn't like WhatsApp?
So you're right. I'm not there on most of the social media, and I started WhatsApp very recently, maybe a few years back. I wasn't there on the WhatsApp also, and on the running the HDFC AMC, I will say that I'm one of the 2,000 people who are running the AMC, and it's a privilege and an honor to be a part of HDFC AMC, and great relationship with Waterfield, and we feel very proud of that. And then first of all, I must say the office is awesome.
Oh, thank you very much, Navneet. Thank you.
And the paintings are just too good.
Especially because you have a similar one.
All your clients to visit the office. I think it's very calming, very soothing.
You should tell our common
clients. I think it reflects a lot of values that you guys stand for. On my journey, I don't know whether the markets would have been a more interesting discussion.
I think we're intrigued by your journey, so you should tell us.
So I'm born and brought up in a small town in Rajasthan, a place called Pyavar. I was born there. I did my schooling, graduation, post-grad, my CA. Luck had it, I got rank, and then I landed up here. But for 1 mark in CA exams, had I not got the rank, this conversation wouldn't be happening. Life would have taken a different trajectory, and that shows the role of luck in life. What a small town gives you is that, and I lived in India of like 70s and 80s, which is like a country of shortages. For everything you have to wait. For everything you have to be in the queue. And what it gives you is like a lot of resilience, I think. What it gives you is a lot of patience. I mean, you will lose electricity when you are writing exam, and you are worried that your copy should not become wet. How to ensure that you are writing and your sweat is not making your paper wet. So I mean, we come from that environment. So I mean, I keep thinking, what is like the biggest job a management does is like capital allocation, resource allocation, where you put your resources. But this gives you, for the few resources that you have, how to make them make the best of it. Also, I believe that I was very lucky with my family, my parents, my friends, my teachers. I was like, for luck had it, I was very fond of all my teachers from primary school to college. They took extraordinary interest in me, and they were like very, very kind to me, and that really shaped me in many ways. Also, maybe in small town in those days without internet, the newspaper comes third day. I mean, English newspaper from Bombay or Delhi will come on the third day. But yeah, I mean, through the radio and whatever resources we had, I mean, that was our window to the world. And the good part is, and this is the line I've coined, that खुले रहिए विचारों से, बंधे रहिए संस्कारों से, खुले रहिए विचारों से. So keep learning. My father always used to encourage, keep learning, keep meeting more people. So even there we had like a lot of interest outside our work, and that gave us like a lot of exposure. But बंधे रहिए संस्कारों से, that your values
Stick to
are
your roots.
should not be compromised. Yeah, I mean, remain grounded, remain humble.
Yeah.
Everything is because of somebody else's goodness that you get. So just remain indebted to that. Yeah. So it's been a great journey.
Yeah, and it's so encouraging and so endearing, I must say. Navneet, okay, so small town, did all your education there. Before I talk to you how the markets happened to you, were you one of those studious kids and that's why your teachers liked you? Or you're one of those
I don't
masti
know.
kids that the teachers liked because they had to control?
No, definitely not. I can take a little look. I think I was very obedient also. And I remember in college, in one of the class teachers just joked that there's a canteen also, and those guys also expect something. I mean, sometimes you better bunk the class and then
Yeah.
give some business to them
Really?
on a lighter note, because yeah, even in college I would attend classes as if like it's a
Religiously, yeah?
primary school. Yeah. So I mean, yeah, they were like very, very kind. I remain in touch with a lot of teachers even now.
Yeah.
Some of my college teachers, they still call, they meet when they are in Mumbai, and I really owe it to them.
We should send them this interview once it goes
Of
live.
course, yeah.
Was childhood tough?
It depends on how you take it. As I said that, I mean, you have to. It's like life is.
Now when you look
You deal with the cards that you are like dealt with, and this attitude of like not having a deep sense of entitlement, but everything has to be earned. Even a new pair of clothes have to be earned. There has to be a reason or an occasion for you to get something, right? Everything has to be earned. Nothing comes easy there. So that value gets imbibed when you live in that kind of environment. So I can say, like, yeah, we didn't get spoiled simply because you had to earn,
Yeah.
everything. And it was competitive as well, right? I mean, some of the kids with me, they were as intelligent. Of course, we were in a school vernacular and a small school there. But still, I think a lot of people were very competitive and you had to work very, very hard.
So rank holder, chartered accountant, then moving to Bombay for your first job. How did the markets happen to you? Because I'm thinking 20, 30 years ago, this was not the India we know, and this was
Yeah.
definitely not the market we knew. If anything, I would have imagined you to get into the tech world or set up a business. But equity markets? How did that happen?
पता नहीं, शायद अगर if I didn't get that rank, I would have been an entrepreneur. I would have lived there, would have set up a business, and I
In
don't know, we might be
Rajasthan.
discussing in a very different role.
Yeah.
Maybe my good listing would have happened, and then you would have interviewed me.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And
yeah.
then Waterfield guys would have
Then he would
contacted
be our
me for
client.
my asset allocation. So I had deep interest in markets from very early age. My father used to listen to a BBC radio, and he'll get up very early morning. He'll track global markets for no reason.
Really? Yeah?
Just out of sheer curiosity. We would get a Gujarati newspaper called the Vyapar bi-weekly, Wednesday and Saturday, just to read what's happening in every market. We would get an Economic Times in those days, and we had like no business of the way where some of these things really matter. But a deep sense of curiosity about everything in the world. I mean, we would track global politics. I mean, you can ask me anything about 80s in politics when I was a small kid, because I used to write notes. I used to do notes for him. I used to write a daily diary, and that's how the markets happened to me. I just at the age of 11, 12, I invested in an IPO. Used to watch that
12?
price, 11. 82, yeah, exactly 11. So, and I used to watch like that price, I would like read every
Track,
day,
yeah.
and then some of the other prices, whether that's going up more than others or
Yeah.
not. We didn't make much money for next several years. I mean, this was more, how do I say, the experiment and laboratory and just remaining open. My father used to say like, read more, meet as many people, random people. He lived in one room for almost 25 years plus. He never traveled for 25 years towards the last part of his life. And but you can ask him anything under the sun.
He will know it.
He would be live, anything under the sun. I mean, if something is happening in UK, something is happening in Africa, Australia elections, he would know on the same day, and the implications on many other things. So a deep sense of curiosity, and I think that helped me in where am I today.
But did he
But
have-
I've spent more time in Mumbai now. I mean,
No, of
credit to
course,
this
yeah.
city, and this is
Made you the person you are
incredible
today.
city in terms of welcoming people from any background, from any region,
Yeah.
any place. You come here and you feel part of this. There's an incredible, what is it called, potpourri of
It's also got a
of
pull
people,
factor,
yeah.
right?
There is a pull factor here. There is
Yeah.
a pull factor here. And life is at a certain pace that, I mean, you lose sense of time in a way.
But this is the irony, right? Because what you want is time. You work so hard to be able to enjoy your time. And then we talk about Bombay being a great city where we lose time. So it's a conundrum
It's up
of
to you,
sorts.
right? I mean,
We are
when
only
people ask
rushing.
me, are you introvert? Are you extrovert? Are you like, what do you love more, company of people? I say
yourself?
I love company of people as much as I love solitude. I can do a 10-day Vipassana without any problem. I've
Really,
done
yeah?
it twice. And I will be with people all the time. Every weekend
mean,
I
your
would
job
have
requires
certain
what
number
you
of
do,
events,
yeah.
to do meet people all the time.
Are you social outside work?
Super social, yeah.
Oh, wow.
But at the same time, I mean, I have like my small cocoon and I can be there for any number of hours.
And
So
what
you can
is-
just put me in one room for any number of hours, any number of days, and I won't have a challenge. At the same time, the thing that I love the most is like, and I've never been able to like figure out what is that I love more. I think I love solitude as much as I love company of people. And I can be with anyone.
What is
Any
family
human
like?
being. So my mother, my wife, I think 3 of us live here. Daughter and son-in-law are in Brussels.
Daughter and son-in-law? Oh my God.
Because on a very lighter note, when people say you are so young, so I tell them I come from Rajasthan. We had child marriage.
I was about to, then so I think I'd sort of hedged my question. What I was going to ask you is, how are you with your young children? Because you are, you come from a place of not believing in entitlement. And children today feel entitled.
Yeah.
But I
no,
guess...
they don't. Yeah, they don't. And they are as grounded. They love being in like, with my family and
Yeah.
extended family in Biawar or my wife's place.
Just one daughter, huh?
My son is in London.
Married?
4th year college. But I strongly believe in that. So my son in London, I mean, he can afford a cab given my income.
Yeah.
Or
Yes.
the prospect of, let's say, if he's studying in Imperial College, the money that he can make over the years, not immediately. It's a tough environment currently in UK and otherwise. But I mean, he was telling me that he hardly takes a cab.
It's the tube.
Always public transport. Always public transport. And yeah, they'll be like, both of them. And it's not about that they wouldn't have good experiences in life. They travel quite a bit. My daughter and son-in-law both have a global job, so they end up traveling a lot. But never a sense of entitlement.
Does Navneet on a personal trip fly economy class or business class or first class?
It doesn't really matter to me.
Oh, really?
For business, of course, because I mean the pace at which you work,
Yeah.
it just helps if you are traveling business or something.
Comfortable, yeah.
But my daughter, on a lighter as well as serious note, always says that the carbon emission is more if you are traveling first or business,
Really?
because that's how she calculates. Ours is an ESG family. We are all deeply
Yeah.
committed to the whole environment and planet and people cause, and then these are like typically a lot of discussions at home about those things.
Wow.
But what I genuinely believe is that they learn or imbibe values by watching you, by seeing you,
Yeah.
and that is more important. By pushing them hard in terms of doing good, expressing themselves, being creative. Like my father inculcated this deep habit of reading and meeting people. I try to inculcate
same
the
with them.
same, that read more, learn more,
Yeah,
explore more wherever in the world. Yeah.
Wow. So that is, of course, the journey that's been... Now, you're not on
But
social media.
it's very, how do I say, these days, there's a whole thing about the work-life balance. And my wife also comes from a business family where the shop is open like all 7 days.
24/7, yeah.
24/7.
And
because
you choose what to
client
do
is,
now.
is
How can
very
I
important.
tell
It's not
you-
about like making money. It's not about that they will
I
lose
agree.
a day's income. It's just about client is family.
Being available, yeah.
Being available to
And
your
that's what-
clients. I think that's more important. And the family has grown like for generations.
no.
For generations. I mean, there's like third, fourth generation in the same business in
I
that
agree,
town.
yeah.
And she's been part of that family. And do I see like that family, like people respect everybody so deeply, so deeply.
No, and I think you can pick your pace. Now, who's the third person to tell you what to do? Even if they think you should have 7 hours of work and 15 hours of rest or whatever, let them decide, yeah. Why does somebody need to tell me that I should not be at work in so and so time? I own my time, and if I want to work 24 hours, be it.
But I respect the people who have that view. I mean, a lot of my
It's very
best
difficult,
guys,
though,
no, but a lot of my best
to
guys
just
are
cut
the
off.
ones who just cut off. I think they will have, a way of like looking at work. But as I said, I am a strong believer in Anekantva. Truth has several dimensions. My truth and I'll respect your
Yeah,
truth.
yeah.
There is no one truth. We really don't know.
We don't know, and whatever works for you,
The
I
whole
guess.
this whole concept of the way we think about work is just 100 years, right?
And no, but I think what happens is, Navneet, if you love your work, so I genuinely think I love what I do, right? I will be calling these boys up at 11 o'clock and saying, is this done? I'll call them up at 7:30 in the morning. And for me, I'm not treating it like work, because when I'm having my coffee, I'm thinking either I'll call a friend or a colleague. And I want to call the colleague.
But I always say, I mean, when I do the induction for our youngsters, and it's such a joy meeting youngsters these days. Work is pleasure, life is a joy. Work is pleasure, life is a joy. If work is duty, life is slavery.
Yeah.
If your work is duty, there's no difference between us and a
Working normally.
slave.
Yeah.
Work has to be joy.
Got to enjoy what
so
you
there
do.
has to be life in the work, and there has to be work
Life
in the
out,
life.
yeah,
This is my belief.
Yeah.
I don't try to like, this is my work and this is my...
No, and a lot, I'm guessing for you also, over the years, a lot of your work friends would now become also personal friends.
Of course, yeah.
So there is no digressions. But let's talk about this is of course all very exciting and interesting. And I'll get a quick word in before I go to the markets is, you said you're not on social media.
When I have a LinkedIn profile,
Which is
few years
inactive?
back, no, it's been like, I don't know what you call inactive, but I haven't. So I do that one post every year. That also only lasts 4 or 5 years. I've been writing that letter for 21 years now, my person of the year. But there was a year when I was in transition between SBI and SDFC. So that day there was no way for me to email to everyone. So I just put it on LinkedIn. So I've continued that for last 5 years. But otherwise, yeah.
And are you, so while that's a
But
social,
am I
you're
like
very
glorifying?
active.
Not necessary. I mean, the people are doing incredibly good job. There are times when people forward me a LinkedIn post of a friend or let's say thought leaders. I think it's a good thing to
separate,
read.
but with everything that's
People connect
happening,
with their other colleagues very well on that. So it has a huge utility for whatever reason somehow. Maybe I don't know.
But let
I
me
can
take a
fit in.
step back. 5 to 10 years ago, when you were an active CIO and when you were investing in companies, one thing a lot of fund managers tell us is the person you're investing in.
Yeah.
Now, to know the person, you'll have to run a little bit of due diligence on social media, on Google. You never thought that was required at that stage?
But I do these kind of conversations
Acha.
all the time. Yeah. And then
So you
I
believe
like
in in-person conversation? Mil
speak
ke
at
baat karke
many
dekhte.
places. No, but thanks to digital media, I don't know. I mean, it will be available, right? You are recording for someone, so it will be there in some public domain. May or may not be on YouTube, where it can be accessed by people at large. But yeah, there would be some of those. I always had the habit of writing a lot. Now it's come down a bit in my current role, but I don't know. From the time I came in Bombay, I think almost in some or the other way, I would be writing a monthly on markets for 25, 30 years. Of course, in those days, we didn't have the social media, etc. So a lot of that may not be accessible today.
Navneet, let's talk about a similarity between you and some of, in fact, quite a few of our clients, right? We have a lot of small town industrialist, legacy business owners. And when we look at them as compared to this new generation of tech entrepreneurs, for example, there's a clear difference in mindset. Risk-taking ability is what we believe. Do you agree? Do you feel like sometimes keeping it simple, keeping the clutter out is probably easier and better in the journey of wealth creation, as opposed to being in the know-how of everything, acting upon everything, as opposed to just staying back and watching?
No, absolutely. There's no like one formula of like building a business, right? Different people have done it different ways. And there are all kinds of examples world over as well as in India. The one thing I see, like you're talking about the entrepreneurs in the smaller town, I think the ambitions are much higher today than what historically people had. I've seen the wave of entrepreneurship developing in India from 80s onwards. When economy started opening up, 91 was like a big moment. And in last 10 years, the aspirations have been like much higher. The size of opportunity is much greater. And maybe confluence of factors, maybe an ease of doing business, the way logistics have changed. You didn't have to, you had to invest a lot in your supply chain, in your like distribution franchise. Today, like 4 platforms and they are a distribution franchise as good as anybody else.
Yeah.
If you are making an outstanding product in Jodhpur
We'll
or in
find it.
Vijayawada or in Bhagalpur, whole India or whole world is your market overnight.
Yeah.
You can build your brand through social media, targeting a certain kind of clientele so easily. It was impossible. 20 years back, you had to be doing a TV advertisement on Kyunki Saas Bhi Kabhi Bahu Thi or whatever
Yeah,
in
yeah, old
that
school.
soap, or you had to do like frontline newspaper. Today you don't have to do that. So all of these things, access to capital has improved, access to many things have improved substantially. So wherever you are, I mean, it's not constraining now. You can really explore things at a pace that wasn't possible till few years
I
back.
think a few years ago, I think talent was everywhere, but opportunities were not, and now that has changed.
Exactly. Now that's changing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, as HDFC AMC and as your investors, because now you are so large, but you have investors from everywhere. You have investors from tier 2, tier 3, hills, and of course, very savvy investors in tier 1 cities. What is the key difference? I'm sure you must have spent some time talking to these people or talking to your teams who go service these people, right? Is there a difference in investment style and expectations between big city versus small city?
I don't think so. No, I think I meet some of the smartest investors in all kinds of places. And maybe thanks to people like you, because you have reached out to like almost every place. The conversation on investment has become mainstream. It's no longer with like few people now. It's like part of a college cafeteria. It's a corporate cafeteria, it's kitty party, wherever you go. I mean, capital markets,
Is a
investing
dinner
is
table
like
conversation now.
it's a dinner table conversation. It's as much as maybe a Bollywood or politics or
you're
cricket,
right.
I think, or maybe more at
So
times.
you're almost a star like
At
Shah Rukh
times.
Khan.
I don't know. So the and I think it's a journey. I've seen 85 bull market. I've seen something similar, not at this scale. I've seen 91, 92. We are at different scale. We are yet to get that scale. Just get this point what I'm making.
What do you mean?
30 years back in 91, 92, the bull market that I've seen and the exuberance that I've seen in markets, I'm yet to see that. People talk about in last 4 years how the demat accounts have grown from 40 million to 190 million, how the mutual fund SIPs have grown. You haven't seen a bull market that I've seen in 92.
But Navneet,
The
there's also a
exuberance,
base case.
the number of people, the percentage allocation they had to equity was greater in 91, 92. The percentage of household wealth and household flow
Financialized.
of savings was greater in 91, 92. It's a myth that people are risk averse in India. For variety of reasons, maybe I think it kind of like came down. And now we are seeing that India is like Asia's oldest stock exchange. The first bull market in India was in 1860.
Wow.
This was the cotton shortage in US because of the civil war there. So a lot of traders in India and Gujarat and Mumbai exported cotton. So huge amount of money came in. And that's where there was a big boom in real estate and in the stock market. A lot of those companies got listed and there was like huge amount of, I would say, new. When we talk about all these new ESOP millionaires, the money coming in, it was very similar in 1860. So India has a long history of capitalism.
So 91, 92 had the most amazing bull market to date.
Yeah.
From where
Most interesting one.
You want to tell me what happened between 92 and 94 because I actually don't know.
So 92 the scam happened and then a lot of challenges in the markets. Market regulator came. There was lack of transparency. You're like all the open outcry system. Very little transparency in those days, the way markets operate today. There was very little regulation in those days. Over a period of time, things kind of like changed. And also that after the 91, after the bust of 1991 and the 92 large bull market, it's just that the prices ran ahead of fundamentals massively. I mean, there could be any PE of any company. People didn't know much. People were just buying stocks because prices are going up. There's a sheer momentum, and you had like few big stars. Whatever they say is like the golden word, and everybody else is following it.
So that was 91, 92, which was phenomenal, like you said, followed by, of course, scams, and anything that moves up quickly also comes down.
And a lot of other good things happened. There was the birth of Indian IT industry. There were like huge new healthcare industry, media, a lot of new businesses on the consumer side as the economy took off. Some of the other export-oriented business, and then you had a different set of companies where the leadership got transitioned from 80s and early 90s.
Yeah.
So 80s, 90s, you'll see a lot of like largest of the companies would be in textile sector. And it's difficult to imagine today that the largest of the companies would be in textile, and the narrative would be, यार हर आदमी कपड़ा पहनेगा, रोटी कपड़ा मकान तो है ही, ये तो अच्छा ही करेंगे. But then none of the textile companies in Sensex or Nifty today. Financial services was zero. And then you have like 30-40% of the index
that is
in
now
financial services. So we saw a big transition. Private sector banks came up, and then HDFC Bank, what an amazing wealth creator over a 30-year period, HDFC Group. So all of that happened, and it was like shape and color of the market changed so much.
So now as we look ahead, Navneet, I know there's so much of hue and cry, and I know that we've seen a little bit of a correction in the markets, but media is also quick to jump, right? November to Jan was tough.
Yeah.
Then Jan to March, I guess, became tougher, but suddenly we went from a correction to undoing all the losses of 2025. So we jump it pretty quickly, at least media does, right? From where we are right now, we feel like it could be maybe a pause, maybe a time, and this is all good, right? You've got to sort of consolidate a little bit, make a high or low, and then move on. The next 2 to 3 years, if one is an investor, what should be the mindset? Buy right now and you will see phenomenal gains like you've seen in the past, or this one's going to be a slightly testing market but continue to buy.
इतना narrative की जगह आप इतना से पूछ सकते थे बाजार क्या लगता है?
क्या लग रहा है बाजार बता दो हमें.
There cannot be a conversation without that. But on a more serious note, you talked about like 2-3 years or longer term. I mean, in investing, the 3 things that every family must kind of keep in mind. The 3 biggest mistakes or the challenges for not to be successful in investing are, one is like peer pressure, because the next door neighbor or your uncle or a friend is making more money. If you chase that, you will never do well for sure. The second is the media noise, and you asked about media ye keh rahi hai and all that. The media noise, I think I always say that, and now that because you have much more than the media that we were used to, you have access to like second to second. And I always quote this: data is not information, information is not knowledge, knowledge is not understanding, understanding is not wisdom. You create wealth by using wisdom, by applying wisdom, not by more data, more information, more knowledge, to be very honest. And the third thing is inherent cognitive biases or the behavioral biases. There is a recency bias. You just extrapolate what has happened in the last 6 months and in 1 year. The bandwagon effect. Everyone else is doing it. There is like always some or the other fad, and you don't want to be kind of like left out of that. The confirmation bias. If you have bought a stock or if you have bought something, you like people who are talking good about it, right? And then you will pay more attention to it. But if somebody is arguing against it, you will switch them off and you will think that they are wrong. I think you need to avoid all of these. And in short, like as Buffett says, it's easier said than done. But you guys do a great job at Waterfield. That's your job. You guys generally believe. Soumya and I keep chatting that. I think our bigger job is not to give high quality content, which you do, of course, which is very critical. But it's about managing these things. How do you handle them?
Emotionally
and
also being there.
Emotionally being there. And that's like, I mean, as Buffett says, easier said than done, that be greedy when others are fearful, be fearful when others are greedy. Always say, Einstein has said that make everything simple but not simpler. ये सब simple है. Rule number 1, don't lose money. Rule number 2,
keep investing money.
no, don't forget the rule number 1. All of those things. But in practical life, difficult to apply that because you get swayed by those emotions. I think if we can control that, have a more strategic allocation over a longer period of time, stay disciplined on that, and of course you have fewer opportunity of being contrarian and then doing some tactical calls. A large part of the job is honestly
So reduce
done.
the number of decision making also, right?
100%. Reduction in that number of decisions that you make itself gives you absolutely will improve the outcome.
You know, now you talked about how wisdom is important. Now, of course, I understand it's important and it should not come from data. But where should it come from then? Today, if somebody wants to, and I'm going to talk about somebody picking a fund or a stock or whatever you want to call it, how does one, or what is the R&D one should do before they buy something? And I think selling or exiting is also a very difficult decision. How does one take both those decisions?
So in a separate context, like this guy says in a leadership way that, you know, people focus on what are they doing. Some focus on how are they doing it. Very few are why are they doing it. I think in investing you can also apply something like that. You know, what are you investing in? How are you doing it? Why are you doing it? But that why part is more important. What is it for? It's for preserving the capital of the family. Is it for growing the wealth? Is it for you're looking to set up a larger business and then this money will be utilized there? Is it for the next generation, several generations, for you? In what manner? Or you want to do philanthropy over a period of time and that's how you want to grow money. Why are you doing it? I think if you get some of these answers right, then you do your asset allocation right, a large part of the work is done.
Yeah, returns are a function of asset allocation as opposed to product selection.
Absolutely.
Right? You know,
And how... But I mean, as like Benjamin Graham says, Mr. Market, the Mr. Market will keep testing your patience, will keep testing your resilience, will keep testing your
and Mr. Market knows it all.
ambition. And then it kind of like, it makes you believe that it knows it all. But you can know more than that by just remaining disciplined and patient. So as Buffett, I think, said that stock market is nothing but moving the capital from the impatient people to the patient people.
No, that's
transferring the money from impatient to the patient.
Bad markets make short-term traders long-term investors also.
Yeah.
They don't want to sell on a bad stock, right? But that, of course, and I want to dwell a little more on the sell part, right? Of course, one, it's objective related. So if you need the money, you will exit a fund.
Yeah.
But sometimes a manager might have run his course if it's a mutual fund. Sometimes a stock might have topped out. How does an investor make a decision? And you must have done this a lot of times as a CIO, to call it quits on a company and on a company that's doing well as well. So sometimes you buy a stock and it does phenomenally well, but you may start taking profits off the table, right?
There are certain reasons why my fund manager will sell. The first and foremost will be, you bought something with an investment thesis in mind. This is why you are buying that. If your thesis has got challenged, something has happened. Maybe the regulation has changed, or maybe something that management, you were expecting from the management, but they have taken a different course which is not aligned with your investment thesis. Something fundamentally has changed in the marketplace, something like that. You had a certain investment thesis and that the thesis has got questioned. Or you have got a better opportunity. Because we are relative value investors, right? We have a certain sum of money in a fund which remains invested more or less all the time. And if you have another opportunity which is more compelling, then what you have to do is like sell something and buy the another thing. And the other could be like, really, I mean, your investment thesis has played out much more than what you anticipated.
Then also you take
and then you would like to take profits. But by and large, if you look at, people think that mutual funds are relatively like shorter term or medium term investors. But if you look at our holdings, they just run for several years. Of course, I mean, look at our funds, there are several holdings which have been just around for several years. They would have compounded over many years. But we strongly believe there are cycles. There could be periods where something is done exceptionally well and you are finding opportunities somewhere else and you switch. But otherwise, intent is, and because I think we will perpetually keep growing, right? So if you have identified a good business and you've identified a good management, and as long as valuations don't run absolutely irrational, you just want to hold it for as long as possible.
20 years ago, it was all about direct equity. And even today, when we look at some portfolios, some legacy portfolios, they have the HDFCs, the ITCs, the Tatas, the Asian Paints of the world that have created very significant wealth in that journey between the late 80s to right now, right? But as we look ahead, the texture of the market is changing. There are mutual funds now. So the vehicle has also changed. But more importantly, those sort of glamorous and amazing stories we heard over the last 30 years, do you see that still playing out over the next 30 years?
For every one name that you took, there would be 9 others that wouldn't have done well.
Yeah, we only remember the winners.
We only remember the winner. Just go and see the Sensex over the last 35 years. And in some of my presentations, I use that, the journey of, let's say, 1979 to now, and see like some of the top companies. If you are in Sensex, you are among the top 30 companies in India.
Yeah.
And look at how it has changed over the years. So people will remember
Only the
one
good
or two of those names that have done very well, but those who have not. On the other side, the way to look at it, similarly, I mean, you give it to a professional fund manager. Our HDFC Flexi Cap Fund has been around for 30
And
years.
it's been
30
a
years.
phenomenal performer.
In 30 years, we give this example. If you were a disciplined investor, invested only, let's say, 10,000 rupees per month, you're sitting on 20 crore rupees today.
1 second, let's do this again. 10,000 rupees every month for the last 30 years. You would be at 20 crores today.
Yeah.
And it is
That's
the best
the power of
Flexi Cap
compounding.
fund.
That's the power of
I
compounding.
think HDFC
If you invested
Flexi
1
and
lakh
Parag
rupees,
Parikh are
it
the
would
two
be
there.
1 crore 80 lakh something,
Okay, let's
180 times, right?
But 1
there are
lakh
very
30
few people.
years ago was also a lot of money, Navneet.
But I meet a lot of people who said even that time I had that. And they would have bought something, some real estate, some whatever, something they would have done. And it hasn't grown as much. But of course, as a responsible fund manager, I must say mutual funds are subject to market risk.
Yeah,
Please read the
I
offer
like this
document
disclaimer.
carefully.
Yeah.
No, because I've talked about the return. Past performance is no guarantee of future performance. Maybe that was a different environment in terms of the level of interest rates, the inflation which was there in India and all so and so forth. But the point I'm making is the sheer power of compounding and the simplicity. You didn't have to do anything. You could focus on your business, which you could have grown quite a bit, right?
We talk about, and I think we understate this. I spoke to a US family office a few months ago, and they talked about how they struggle to do even index returns. In India, if you tell somebody, and we have some very unrealistic prospect clients who tell us we want 20% returns. They think portfolio returns are like product returns. Sure, you have some products that have done that.
Annually bola na, quarter nahi bola.
अच्छा हुआ quarter नहीं, वो भी बोल
because
देते
last year the way markets were, I remember people were like, the expectations were absolutely, I mean,
and what I really want to tell
ridiculous.
people and our viewers is that getting index hugging returns also is not that easy.
Absolutely.
That plus a couple of % alpha is actually a challenge, right? Would you not agree with me on that?
No, of course, yeah. And the happiness in life is expectations minus delivery, right? So if your expectations are not set right, you'll have disappointment for sure.
And also, of course, you need somebody to handhold you through that.
Again, as I said, the recency bias that we always look at like last 2 years and then extrapolate that into next 2 years or next 20 years. It doesn't happen like that, yeah.
How, in your opinion, I mean, like I said, right, your funds...
If you've compounded money at a decent rate, I mean, even at 10,
you're
12%,
doubling down at 14, 15% in 5 years, right?
Yeah, it's huge.
Yeah, it's the power of compounding, like we say,
life is long.
Yeah.
And most of the people say, I'm a long-term investor. मेरे को तो 5 साल देखना भी नहीं है. मैं कितने साल के हो, sir? They've sold a business, they got a lot of money, or business is generating a lot of cash or whatever, or they sold a property and a large money they have invested. 5 साल बाद क्या करोगे आप? 5 years later, you will have a bigger, more money to invest. 20 years later, you will have more money to invest. You won't need this money, right? You just kind of like, as Patek Philippe, you only hold it for the next generation.
Yeah.
That your next generation will have more money. Then why do you have to think
and
like 5 or 10 years? And all this more money,
who's going to spend, I want to know. Because it
no, that's a different thing. What will you do with that money? That's a different thing.
Question
I mean, you can
give it away,
spend that on something, you can give it away, whatever. But unlikely that you will need for your expenses or something. I mean, at least the families you are talking about. You will have more incomes. I tell people why you need to, whatever you have invested, you have underinvested. Why? There are 3 L. One is larger income. Whatever you are earning today, you'll be earning more. India will only grow. Like we'll be, let's say if we grow at 10-11% nominal GDP, will be 50-60% bigger economy. So your business will generate that much of more cash. Longevity of life, you're going to live for much longer than what you think, and you have lifestyle inflation. Your aspirations, I mean, you talked about like spend your money or give away your money, is only going to increase.
I mean,
We were not living the life that we are living now, and it will only kind
Get
of
more
like
and more
increase. So you
expensive.
have to invest more than whatever money you have invested.
What in your, okay, we'll talk about that in a minute, but between an ultra HNI, so clients that we usually deal with, versus a retail investor, what is the key difference in investment ideologies?
So one, of course, because
As
they
we have
have
seen.
they're people like you, right? I mean, so where you provide them different kinds of, I would say, opportunities across many asset classes in India and abroad. You will throw like a lot of opportunities, public markets, in private markets, and like right from an angel investing to variety of things in infrastructure or real estate investing. So maybe the whole, I would say, the toolkit available to create something is different. But the one thing I'm sure every ultra HNI can, I mean, it's other way around now, can learn from retail investors is that what a patience and a discipline of a most simplest of the thing SIP can do
I mean,
to
we
you.
are strong believers of SIP. We
But
make
think
only
about
SIP
it. I mean, a
investments.
rich person always thinks that I can time the market. This is like a dumb thing to keep investing money monthly. I'm not the one who does recurring deposits. Maybe my grandfather would have done that. But think about the simplicity that I gave you that example of 10,000 rupees per month becoming 20 crores. If you had 1 lakh rupee per month, I mean, it would be 200 crores. I was in Guwahati and I remember one person came to me and he said that even 20 years, 30 years back, my rental income was like that much. I could have done that. But when I look at my portfolio, it's not that big. So I mean, his 25-year-old son was there. He said, from today you start that, and he was calculating how much money I will have 30. I said, sir, वो इतना return शायद नहीं आएगा. There was a different
थोड़ा
environment.
realistic अभी.
But he said, no, the point is this sheer discipline. Because for 30 years I kept timing. I was like overboard in 92 and then I got like completely moved out of the market. I missed the 2000, then I played the tech bull market, made so much of money and then got wiped out. I mean, again and again I made that mistake. But the sheer discipline of it, doing it for long haul, is so much, And I think Indian retail is getting it very, very rightly. In US, there is a concept called 401k millionaires. A lot of people have become millionaires, simple like middle class, hardworking people somewhere.
And a lot of these
but they were 401k was putting money in market in a disciplined manner for 30-40 years of their working career, and they retired like very wealthy.
No, but I think also at that level, and that's where while it's so easy said, where you make an allocation every month, stay the course, wealth will be created. Also, where to make the allocation is important, and that's why you need the advisor.
मैं आपको एक interesting बताता हूँ note for your profession that there was this guy who could what is that profession called where you can open the lock without the key. If you lose the key, you call someone, whether your car key or the locksmith. Or the locksmith. So locksmith used to come. And this guy will take like 2 hours. He's sweating because he's outside your house and trying so many things to open the door. And after 2 hours, when he opens, you give him like extra tip. You give him like 200 rupees, boss. Thank God, my passport pada. I need to rush to airport. Now, over a period of time, that guy becomes smarter and smarter. Now he comes to your house and he looks at the lock for a minute and he just puts it like this and the lock is opened. The guy doesn't get any tip now because you think usme kya hai abhi. But you don't understand that that's
skill is come after.
It's come. So now that experience that you have of seeing so many families over the year, what really works for them. So what people want is like how the people who said that people want advice which looks interesting or which looks good and not the simple one. Because simple one में they will say यार तुम क्या value add कर रहे हो यार SIP पे तो मैं भी ऐड देख रहा हूँ पेपर में म्यूचुअल फंड सही है
अभी तो IPL मैच में भी फुल टाइम वही आते रहता है SIPs
वो तो मैं भी कर लूंगा उसमें आपका क्या रोल है बट आपका जो रोल है वो बहुत बड़ा है that simplicity of like just opening that lock in a second it hasn't come easy. It's by watching many things different kinds
And
of
watching
locks
different
in different
people
kinds
also,
of
because the psyche of people is
places.
so different,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
What are your thoughts on passive investing? And I want to talk to you about this because we've seen that in the last decade or so, active fund managers, at least in the large cap space, have struggled to beat the index. With the rise of AI, and I know you've talked about how deep tech India could be a hub for this. Do you think a lot of the active fund management may be replaced by passive allocations or quant investing? Or
It won't be replaced. I think it will be in India. The journey will be active
enabled?
and passive and alternatives.
I
Everything
agree.
will
Yeah.
grow. It depends on each individual investor. I mean, how do you want to allocate and use a good advisor for the right allocation that you make it most cost efficient. At the same time, if you only look at the cost, I mean, how much money I'm saving on in terms of expense ratio, but you are foregoing the alpha that you are generating on that, then you're not making a good decision. Honestly, outside India, passive developed for a variety of reasons because there was a tax advantage in ETFs in US then versus the active funds. In India, that's not the case. The other is that in India, the active funds are very cheap. In UA, there were all kinds of entry loads and all kinds of like hidden charges
Yeah.
and fees that people had to pay, and the fee were like very high. The retail funds still in US after mutual fund industry started in 1924 by MFS. After 100 years, retail funds in US are as costly as
India.
let's say India. India would be cheaper. And India has this direct plan, right? Where you like 30, 40, 50 basis point you are paying to a
We do the direct plan, yes.
portfolio manager. I'm running like 30 people with 10, 15, 20, 25 years of experience in market. What we have
And
built
all
for
you're
which
spending,
what
yeah.
you are paying is hardly anything. And you can, so at HDFC AMC, I talked about 30 years journey of
Yeah.
FlexiCap fund. We've got, I think, almost 12, 13 funds which have been in existence for over 15 years, 15, 20, 25, 30 years. And they have a long history of alpha generation. I remember 3, 4 years back, people used to ask the same question. अब इतने बड़े funds हो गए तो alpha आएगा क्या? Look at the alpha in last 3
आया
years.
है.
Look at the alpha in last 3 years. You've got millions of new investors. You've got all kinds of foreign investors. You've got, I mean, markets have become easier and easier to access. Whether our alpha has come down, not
Making
really.
it,
In
yeah,
some of the funds like FlexiCap, if you look at
Still
last
doing
3 years, it's
phenomenally well.
phenomenal alpha. I believe that we have two things working for us. One is the time arbitrage. We don't excessively pay attention on what Trump will do on 1st April. We look at businesses from a longer term perspective. So we play time arbitrage. Second is the research arbitrage. I have a research capability to identify the right business, right management, right valuation better than most of the other people. As long as I keep investing into like how do I build an information edge, how do I build an analytical edge, how do I build more behavioral edge, keep the risk management highly ingrained, I think I remain confident of the alpha generation capability.
For it.
No,
So
I'm
we
saying
like,
passive also, active also. We run
So
everything.
we, in
But
our
I'm a
case,
genuinely believer in active
active
funds. All my
management.
money is in active funds.
Where
Large
is all your money? Only
and in
equities?
HDFC mutual fund.
Sab kuch?
Almost all is in active in HDFC mutual fund. Yeah,
Equity?
mostly equity. Yeah.
So you don't believe in asset allocation?
I believe in asset allocation. I increased like when that tax regulation changed, and maybe I thought that whatever money I need to keep in fixed income, I should do that now, and it'll just kind of like lie there over a period of time. But the fixed income allocation you also get through some of the hybrid funds.
Do you actively manage your own portfolio?
No, not really. I on a serious note, I'm saying, and not
No,
because I'm in front of camera. The joy in life is making money for other people, and we are
Really?
blessed. We are blessed. This life you get after a lot of good karma in several lives to get an opportunity to make money for other people.
So you must have quite a fan following when you go to the airport, na?
पता नहीं.
पता नहीं आप एयरपोर्ट नहीं जाते हो?
I feel humbled when somebody comes to me
हाँ.
and say कि मैंने फंड में पैसा लगाया था 2004 में और इतना हो गया. So
Right, now let's do a few quick takes. I know we've gone very over, but very fatafat. One quick investment principle you believe in is often overlooked.
I think the patience.
Patience.
It's not about the money that you invest. It's about the time and the patience that you have. Somebody told me very nicely, which is relevant for your families. In the long run, how much wealth you have doesn't depend on how much money you make. In the long run, how much wealth you will have doesn't depend on how much money you make. It will depend on how much money your money makes.
Passive
It will depend on
income.
how much money your money makes. Never underestimate the importance of making more on your money.
Make your money work for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's a good one. India or the world? Next 10 years.
India.
100% India?
I'm 100% India.
So
yeah.
you don't believe
I have
in
view on everything in the world. I can talk about like tactical calls here and there, but
strategic
I'm
India is a big bet.
strategically India.
Right. The best personal investment decision you made and the lesson that it taught you.
I think just remaining invested in our funds. Yeah.
Does your wife like gold?
I think personal investment, if you ask me, is a relationship that you build.
That you built through the years.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on gold? I know you also have a gold fund. But
So I've always said that it's like when you buy a car, you should buy an insurance policy, right? If something doesn't work, if something goes wrong anywhere, whether it's a
थोड़ा hedge हो
geopolitics,
जाता है.
risk of fiat currency is blowing up, something happens anywhere in the world, gold will do well. But I mean, gold is an like asset which doesn't deliver any return, right? I mean, deliver in any cash flow.
Yeah.
There's no earning on that. Companies make money, that's why stock prices go
There's
up. I
no-
mean,
yeah.
a bond has an interest
Gold
rate.
has a global play to it.
Gold is like somebody else will pay more than what you have paid, right? It works
Buy
on
and
that
sell, yeah, it doesn't
philosophy. And you assume
optim-
that fiat currencies will keep expanding, and that's why there will be inflation, and there will be like
Gold will
will
gain.
have value. But there have been cycles, so never. And generally, I mean, you go and see the last 20, 30 years, and you see the ETF flows versus the gold price. They always peak when the price is also at the peak, because people look at last 3-5 year returns and then
Go and
increase
buy.
the allocation. There was this period like I think 2011, 12, when a lot of money was
I think
coming
it's
into
also happening
ETFs,
right now, Navneet.
and there were long number of years where gold didn't deliver anything. Between 1982 and 2002, gold prices fell from $800 to $250.
Oh, we don't talk about
$800
those,
to
do we?
$250 over a 20-year period. It was like 20 years of
Downfall.
downfall, yeah. And in that period, if you invested in bonds, US interest rates were 15%, and they fell to like 2-3%.
This is why you need an advisor in life. This buy and
Exactly.
hold, it doesn't work always. Just one last question. Nifty higher in December 2025 versus now? This is a tough one.
I think so.
Okay, good. Thank you very much, Navneet. So good to have you today. Thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.